Coming in at 10, Ozzy Osbourne. In 2016, The Sun posted an article alleging that Black Sabbath rocker Ozzy Osbourne was missing after a claim surfaced that his marriage to wife Sharon Osbourne was ending over a rumoured infidelity. However, the missing persons case didn't last long, 3 hours to be exact, with reports quickly surfacing that the singer was well and fine in Los Angeles. His wife Sharon addressed their marriage breakdown during an episode of The Talk, stating, "I'm 63 years of age and I can't keep living like this." However, stranger still, the couple were spotted just days later together looking rather chummy, sparking rumours that Ozzy's disappearance and their supposed split was just a publicity stunt. Strange. Coming in at 9, DB Cooper. We all know of DB Cooper, and if you don't, well, I'm here to fill you in. On Thanksgiving Eve 1971, DB Cooper purchased a ticket under the alias Dan Cooper and proceeded to hijack Flight 305, which was bound for Seattle. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper told the flight attendant that he had explosives in his possession, demanding $200,000 and 4 parachutes, otherwise he would detonate. Authorities paid the ransom and gave Cooper the parachutes, and after refueling, he was headed to Mexico City. However, after only 30 minutes into the flight, he jumped from the plane, not far from Mount St. Helens in Washington State. Cooper was never found, but on top of that, his real identity still remains a mystery. In July 2016, a documentary was aired on the History Channel about DB, where they named Robert Rackstraw as the man behind the mask. However, the FBI didn't pursue him, so who DB Cooper is still remains a mystery to this day. Coming in at 8, Randy Quaid. Now this one is just bizarre. Randy Quaid was an Academy Award nominated actor who fled with his wife to Canada in 2010 in an attempt to seek asylum from a group they referred to as Hollywood star whackers, who were allegedly out to kill him. Now their escape to Canada resulted in a lot of illegal activities by the couple, which included using fake credit cards to pay for hotels, as well as squatting in one of their former homes. According to CNN, the couple were eventually granted permission to stay in Canada in 2011, with his wife managing to get citizenship because her father was born in the country. Randy's request, however, was denied in 2013. In October of 2015, Randy was detained by Canadian immigration officials and was set to be deported back to the US later that month. Crazier still, he and his wife were arrested while trying to sneak back into the States through Vermont. Bizarre. Coming in at 7, Andrew Koenig. Back in the day, Andrew Koenig was the star of the popular show Growing Pains. However, on February 14, 2010, his parents reported him missing after he failed to board a flight from Vancouver to Los Angeles. His body was eventually discovered by friends in a Vancouver park, with Koenig having reportedly committed suicide. According to reports, the actor had stopped taking his depression medication and was in a lot of pain leading up to his death. Following the tragedy, Koenig's parents spoke openly to the media about suicide, stating, "Before you make that final decision, check it out again and talk to someone. There are people out there who really care. Remember, if you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline." We'll link it below. Coming in at 6, Richard Stanley. Richard Stanley, for those who don't know, was hired as the director of the 1996 film The Island of Dr. Moreau. However, he was fired after just 3 days of filming, with strange stories and events quickly surfacing from the film's set. The Telegraph reported that Stanley was escorted onto a flight from the remote location in Australia, with him set to land in Los Angeles. However, when the flight landed, he wasn't on board. More interesting still, a month later, some of the extras from the film discovered him living rough in the jungle, with the report stating that he fled from the airport and was living on yams and coconuts at a fruit plantation. But guys, it gets even weirder. He then teamed up with the extras in order to get back onto set, and he did this by dressing up in a dog hybrid costume. Yeah, that happened. Coming in at 5, Patrick McDermott. The disappearance of Patrick McDermott captivated the media back in 2005 when he went missing during a fishing trip. The once boyfriend of Olivia Newton-John was rumoured to have disappeared in order to escape debt and money he owed in unpaid child support, with him reportedly spotted numerous times through the years. One specific occasion was in 2006 when owners of a cafe told a private investigator that McDermott visited their place of business with a mystery blonde. Later in March 2016, it was alleged that McDermott was alive and well and that he was living in a remote village in Mexico with his German girlfriend. However, none of this has been confirmed. Newton-John seemed to get over it though when she married John Easterling in 2008. Good for her. Why wait around? Coming in at 4, Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa was a union official presiding for over 10 years. He was, of course, corrupt and involved in a lot of organised crime, which resulted in him going to prison in 1967 while still retaining his presidency over the Teamsters. He eventually resigned his post in 1971 in order to gain release from prison as well as a pardon from then President Nixon. Now, Hoffa was last seen outside a Detroit restaurant where it was rumored he was meeting two organized crime bosses. Folks don't learn, do they? Following his disappearance, he was declared dead in 1982, but the circumstances have always remained suspicious. It has, however, been established that he was killed by mobsters the day he vanished, even though his body was never found. One story states that he was buried in a shallow grave on a vacant lot 20 miles from where he was last seen. However, this was never proven. Coming in at number 3, Nick Stahl. In the early 2000s, Nick Stahl was a big name actor, starring in films like In the Bedroom alongside Marissa Tomei. Now in May 2012, it was reported that Stahl was missing amid rumors that he had been frequenting Skid Row in the downtown area of Los Angeles. Word very quickly got out, spreading across the media instantly. Not long after, Stahl emailed a handful of his friends, claiming he was planning to go to rehab, with TMZ confirming that he did indeed turn up at a rehabilitation center, because they seem to know everything. However, not long after, Stahl went missing again after checking out of rehab against his doctor's wishes. His wife Rose told tabloids she would not actively search for her husband again, stating, "He knows exactly where home is. It's the loving thing to do for him, myself and our daughter." Thankfully, Nick reappeared and reconciled with his family, with the reports claiming he was now in a good place. However, they were wrong because things took a turn for the worse in 2013. In June of that year, the star was placed on a 5150 psychiatric hold for unknown reasons, and that very same month he was arrested when cops found him and 3 others using meth in a motel. Coming in at 2, Dorothy Arnold. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this case, Dorothy Arnold was a Manhattan heiress and socialite who disappeared at the age of 25 in December 1910 in New York City. Now, on the morning of December 12th, Arnold told her mother that she was going shopping for a dress for her sister's upcoming party. Her mother suggested she go with her, but Arnold declined, saying she would call if she found something nice. It's reported that after doing some shopping, she stopped to chat with a friend before excusing herself, saying she had to meet her mother for lunch shortly before 2 p.m. Now, this was the last time anyone saw or heard from Arnold. The family, of course, became worried when she never returned home, but not wanting media attention, chose not to call the police until weeks after her initial disappearance. They held a press conference offering a reward for any information leading to her discovery. However, no one came forward. After 75 days of investigation, the search was called off, with the prevailing rumor being that Arnold died due to a botched abortion. More interesting still, in 1916 a clinic was raided by the police and a doctor testified that Arnold did indeed die there. However, her father adamantly denies these rumors. After the death of both of her parents, it was rumored that Dorothy Arnold actually committed suicide due to her failed writing career, but nothing has ever been proven. And finally, coming in at number 1, Amelia Earhart. Perhaps the most famous missing person in history, Amelia Earhart. She became famous as both a pilot and a passenger, and her exploits in the sky made her well known around the world. Aside from aviation, she was also a teacher, author, fashion designer, a magazine editor, and a cigarette spokesman. In 1937, Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan embarked on a trip around the world. However, on July 2nd, Earhart sent out a radio message asking for help, with the pair dangerously low on fuel while flying over the Pacific Ocean. The US Coast Guard sent help, but rescuers were unable to locate the plane. Earhart and Noonan were never found, with them being declared dead in 1939 after an extensive search funded by Earhart's husband. Now, of course, the missing persons case garnered a lot of attention, with many putting forth their own theories about what might have happened. The most common belief is that the plane ran out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific Ocean, subsequently sinking. In 2012, researchers spent another $2.2 million trying to prove that Earhart had crashed on an island instead of sinking to the bottom of the ocean. However, this was never proven. Coming in at 10, Sinead O'Connor. It's common knowledge that Irish singer Sinead O'Connor has faced a lot of trouble in her life. However, in 2016 it all came to a head when she was reported missing. Not once, but twice. The first disappearance occurred in May of 2016 after reports surfaced that O'Connor went for a bike ride in her Chicago suburb and never returned. The news instantly hit the media, and rumors stated that O'Connor was classified as missing suicidal by police. However, she was later found safe at a hotel before she was transferred to a local hospital. A month after the incident, police went and searched for O'Connor once again after Irish authorities called to say she had threatened to jump off a bridge in Chicago. However, a little while after these reports surfaced, O'Connor took to Facebook to deny the rumors that she was suicidal. I quote, "Oh, and by the way, it's bullshit that I jumped off a bridge. Some stupid up at Swords Garden Station decided she'd like to throw a bit of false and malicious gossip about is all. I'm far too happy for that." Coming in at 9, Richey Edwards. Richey Edwards was the rhythm guitarist and lyricist for Manic Street Preachers, a mid-90s British rock band whom The Guardian called a lightning rod of sorts for adolescent angst. What a title. Now, Edwards infamously wrote a lot of songs about depression. However, it was his publicity stunts that really triggered folks. On one particular occasion, Edwards was being interviewed by a journalist from NME, who implied that the band's posturing was insincere. So as a response, Edwards grabbed a razor blade and carved "for real" into his own arm. However, his behaviour took a turn for the worse when he was reported missing in February of 1995. The musician was due to fly to the US with a fellow band member. However, Edwards disappeared from his hotel room. His car was later found abandoned near the Severn Bridge, which connects England and Wales, and Edwards was legally declared dead in 2008, but his body has never been recovered. Coming in at number 8, Harold Holt. Back in the 60s, Harold Holt was known for being the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. However, just 2 years into his term, Holt went missing. In December of 1967, Holt went swimming at the deserted Cheviot Beach in Victoria. However, he never returned. The weather that day was terrible, and the Smithsonian recounts one person at the scene who claimed the surf was higher than they'd ever known it. Holt's body was never recovered. However, a 2005 investigation concluded he had drowned. However, it were the events that followed that made Holt's disappearance truly baffling. As you can imagine, a Prime Minister disappearing out of nowhere triggered a lot of conspiracy theories, resulting in Australian law at the time making an inquest into someone's death without a body illegal, even if that person was the leader of the country. What are they trying to hide? Coming in at 7, Oscar Zeta Acosta. Acosta was a legendary activist who relentlessly consumed pills, booze, and hallucinogens in such large quantities that even his friend Hunter S. Thompson couldn't keep up. That's saying something. He was a large man with an even larger appetite, and his buddy Thompson immortalized his friend in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which starred Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. In May 1974, Acosta visited his ancestral home of Mexico and just straight up vanished. Hunter S. Thompson spent years on and off searching for his friend. However, it was later claimed that he was likely killed in a drug hit or a political assassination. Yet no body was ever found. After all these years, some people still hold out hope that Acosta didn't die. The Book of Latino Writers and Journalists references a theory that he may have had a nervous breakdown and decided to just stay in Mexico. I guess we'll never know though. Coming in at 6, Scott Hutchison. Scott Hutchison was a singer from Frightened Rabbit who used his music to detail his suicidal thoughts. An example being, in the track Floating in the Fourth, he sings, "And fully clothed I float away, down the Forth into the sea. I think I'll save suicide for another day." Now, though his battle with depression was blatantly obvious and his fans were more than aware, it was still shocking and baffling when Hutchison sent out a series of cryptic tweets in May 2018. One read, "Be so good to everyone you love. It's not a given. I'm so annoyed that it's not. I didn't live by that standard and it kills me. Please hug your loved ones." In his second and final tweet, he wrote, "I'm away now. Thanks." The very next day, his fellow bandmates announced that Hutchison was missing, stating, "He may be in a very fragile state and may not be making the best decisions for himself right now." Hutchison was last seen leaving a hotel in Scotland, and on May 10, 2018 his body was found. The cause of death hasn't been released, but his family issued a statement in the wake of his passing, saying they were immensely proud of him for being so open with his struggles. I said this in the last video, but once again, if you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Coming in at 5, Richard Simmons. The fitness-crazed 80s star Richard Simmons baffled everyone back in 2014 when his public appearances and online presence came to an abrupt halt out of seemingly nowhere, with the star last seen in February of that same year. For 3 years, the fitness guru completely vanished. However, it wasn't until March 2017 when the police conducted a welfare check and issued a statement that we learned that Simmons was perfectly fine and very happy, apparently. The following month, however, Simmons was admitted to a hospital with severe indigestion, with the star releasing a statement on Facebook to address the circulating rumours about his disappearance and welfare. I quote, "Well, by now you know that I'm not missing, just a little under the weather. I'm sure I'll be feeling good and back home in a couple of days." Well, thank God for that. Coming in at 4, Kurt Cobain. Now, a lot of you may not be aware that the final days of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain's life were truly chaotic, even being described as a crisis in a heartbreaking piece by Rolling Stone. They detail how Cobain entered a Los Angeles-based rehab center in April 1994. However, on one particular day he reportedly told staff he was stepping out for a smoke. However, he never returned, with his former wife Courtney Love stating that he jumped over the fence of the facility. Cobain's mother Wendy filed a missing persons report on April 4th, informing the police that her son might be suicidal. It was later discovered that Cobain caught a flight from LA to Seattle, and police reported that he wandered around town with no clear agenda in his final days. Witnesses who spotted the singer described him as looking ill and wearing a thick jacket at a park, and sometime on or before April 5th he barricaded himself in a greenhouse built above his garage. The singer wrote a one-page suicide note, possibly used heroin, and took his own life with a shotgun at the age of 27. Coming in at 3, Jason Mewes. Jason Mewes, star of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, disappeared for almost 2 years after failing to show up for a drug-related court appearance in 2002. He finally turned himself in and was sentenced to 6 months in rehab back in 2003. However, what resulted in him coming out of hiding was what caused the most speculation. According to Entertainment Weekly, Mewes woke up on Christmas morning from a heroin-induced sleep to find the couch he had passed out on engulfed in flames. This caused the actor to realize that he had hit rock bottom, resulting in him driving from California to New Jersey, where a warrant was out for his arrest. In the years that followed, Mewes struggled to get sober, however he finally got clean in 2010, and as of the time of this recording, a Jay and Silent Bob reboot is in the making. Coming in at number 2, Margot Kidder. Superman star Margot Kidder hid out in the bushes of a suburban California home back in the 90s. According to police, that is where they discovered her after she had been missing for 4 days back in April 1996. She was found dirty, frightened, and paranoid with bruises and scratches on her body. Kidder was taken to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation, and according to The Independent, I quote, "At the time of her discovery, she was wearing disheveled, cast-off clothing and apparently cut off her own hair with a razor blade in an attempt to alter her appearance." Following the incident, Kidder later revealed she was suffering from manic depression and was working hard to better manage her disease. However, sadly on May 13th of 2018, Kidder passed away, taking her own life as a result of drug and alcohol poisoning. And finally, coming in at number 1, Fan Bingbing. At one time, Fan Bingbing was one of China's highest paid stars, and was catapulted into the limelight when she starred in 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past. However, not long after her fame was growing in the West, media was reporting that the actress had suddenly disappeared without a trace. Rumours began to surface that the actress was using phony contracts to commit tax evasion, with the Global Times reporting that Bingbing reported an income of $1.5 million in small contracts and $7.6 million in a larger contract, which was illegally treated as tax-free income. The Chinese later announced that the actress was placed in a secret detention facility but was released after she agreed to pay $130 million in back taxes. Upon her re-emergence, she issued an apology on social media stating, "I am deeply ashamed and guilty about what I have done. My sincere apologies to you." I mean, for $130 million, the apology could have been a little better. That's all I'm saying.
Starting off the list at number 10 is Monique. It has been a year since the actress rocked the industry by going head-to-head with Netflix, saying that she didn't get paid what other comedians did for her comedy special. Things went as far as Monique demanded a boycott against Netflix and turned down the $500,000 they offered her for the special. I'll take that $500,000. Amy Schumer got $13 million for hers, to put it into some perspective for you. So I guess, yes, that is a big difference. Long story short, she caused a huge controversy saying that she didn't get paid as much because she was black. She then went on to insult about 80% of fellow entertainers in the industry who weren't supportive of her claims. And that is when the queen of daytime TV stepped in, Oprah. The two of them were once like family, pretty much best friends, but had an issue back in 2009 after Oprah brought Mo's family on her show without her consent. She ended up bringing her mom and her brother, who Monique has openly accused of sexually assaulting her, so obviously there was a lot of beef there. They were able to work things out, but when it came to these more recent scandals with Netflix and the rest of Hollywood, Oprah called Monique negative during an interview, and she clapped back at Oprah, calling her a coward. We haven't heard much from her ever since, and she hasn't acted in anything since 2016. So girl, where are you at? Where are you hiding? Next up at number 9 is Jared Fogle. If you don't recognize him by just his name, he was that guy that was pretty much in every Subway commercial. He was literally the pitch man for the entire company, like that was his actual job. He got the sweet gig after losing a significant amount of weight with the help of Subway sandwiches. His weight loss story led him to being the spokesperson for all of their advertising campaigns from the years 2000 all the way until 2015. We saw his face everywhere, but then all of a sudden that quickly changed and he basically went into hiding. But once we found out why, it made sense. Some people might have noticed that he was no longer the face of Subway and questioned why until headlines came out saying that he was charged for child pornography and paying for sex with minors. He pleaded guilty to his charges and was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. His attorneys argued that he should only have a 5-year sentence since the girls he had sex with were 16 and 17 years old, not young children. That did not work in his favor. Jared agreed to pay a total of $1.4 million in restitution to 14 different victims, and on top of that, the judge fined him $175,000. Since then, his disappearance is no longer a mystery, and he is now behind bars. Coming in at number 8 is Stacey Dash. You probably know her as the actress from the iconic movie Clueless. She was blacklisted a few years ago after her political views cost her her entire career. She's a conservative who was clever enough to write a book on her blacklisting experience and called it "There Goes My Social Life from Clueless to Conservative." It all happened by one simple tweet. During the Barack Obama election, she tweeted out, "Vote for Romney, the only hope for your future." She said she tweeted it out because she didn't want Obama to have another 4 years, they were her beliefs, and she was sticking by them. But when she woke up the next day, everything was different. She spoke about it during an interview in 2016 and said, "I've been blacklisted, my agents have dropped me, I haven't auditioned in over a year because my beliefs and what I stand for." After that, she disappeared from Hollywood basically. We stopped hearing about her, but the mystery of her disappearance ended just 2 days ago. She was back in the headlines, but this time it was because of her mugshot. Turns out she was arrested for domestic battery after an incident with a male. So things are not looking too good for her. Sliding into number 7 spot is James Franco. The reason why he landed himself on the blacklist is really no surprise anymore. It was in the news for a while, and I have talked about it a handful of times on this channel, but for those who aren't familiar with the story, I will sum it up for you. It all started back in 2014 when screenshots surfaced of him trying to rent a hotel room for him and a 17-year-old girl, who he knew was underage, and screenshots show that. Of course, when the screenshots broke the internet, people were disgusted and we thought we would never hear from him again. But surprisingly, his career continued on after the scandal faded out. All was good in the hood until 2018 when he showed up to the Golden Globe Awards wearing a Time's Up pin. The pin was designed to show support for women who are victims of sexual assault and harassment. But a variety of women started tweeting accusations of sexual misconduct and assault in reference to his pin. They literally started tweeting out stories of how he sexually assaulted them and hashtagged it #CuteTimesUpPin. Since then, he's been completely MIA. We haven't seen him on the big screen, and he deleted all of his social media accounts. Anything on his IMDb accounts are small projects that he has produced himself on his own budget. His most recent project, Zeroville, just came out, and it's the first time we are seeing him acting in years. However, it's already been titled the biggest box office flop of 2019, earning just $8,000 on its opening weekend in the US. Yikes. And at number 6 is Roseanne Barr. The actress once had her own ABC show titled after her, Roseanne, which is why it is such a shame that she lost it all by another single tweet. People are losing their careers over Twitter. Maybe it is time to delete your account. Besides her work, she's also known for being a Trump supporter, which of course has caused her some controversy. However, it was a specific tweet back in May 2018 that had her career spiral out of control. Her tweets were about Valerie Jarrett, a senior advisor to the former President Barack Obama. In her tweet, she compared Valerie to the cross between the Muslim Brotherhood and the movie Planet of the Apes. ABC canceled her show immediately, which was supposed to reboot the same day, coincidentally. As of January of this year, her Twitter was off limits and she moved into her mother's basement in order to get out of LA. She said that she was worried that everyone hated her and just wanted to avoid the public eye. We haven't heard or seen much from her, but the paparazzi is still trying. A more recent image surfaced a few months ago of Roseanne looking all disheveled outside of her home in Salt Lake City, Utah. Apparently, she was trying to take a picture of the paparazzi's license plate. She looks like a damn hot mess. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Brendan Fraser. 10 years ago, he was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but then he suddenly disappeared. For 90s babies like me, you would know him from the Mummy franchise, George of the Jungle, and the Looney Tunes. After 2008, he disappeared from starring in big movie roles, and people started saying it was due to a drug addiction. But he finally came out with the truth years later, admitting that it had to do with an incident of sexual assault. He claimed that he was once physically groped by Philip Burke, a former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Burke called the allegation a, I quote, total fabrication, but still sent Brendan an apology letter after the actor complained to the HFPA. Since coming out with his story, he has slowly been returning to some acting roles, but for the most part, he just lays low at his home in New York. He actually bought bought a big house that overlooks a farm and has spent the last year going back and forth between home and Toronto. He loves spending time with his horses and relaxing down his little dirt road. Definitely a big step back from the Hollywood lifestyle. Here we are number 4 with Paula Deen. For years you would have seen her face plastered all over the Food Network. This was until a lawsuit was filed against her by Lisa Jackson, accusing the celebrity chef of racial discrimination. Lisa is Paula's former general manager at one of her restaurants, so they were once very close. She claims that Paula was using the N-word when talking about African Americans. She was asked during an interview if she has ever used this word, and her response was, "Yes, of course, it's just what they are, they're jokes. Most jokes are about Jewish people, rednecks, black folks. I can't determine what offends another person." After her statement, networks canceled her TV programs worldwide and stores even stopped selling her products. She disappeared from the public eye for a while, but was recognized once again after making insensitive comments about another Food Network star that passed away. Chef Carl Ruiz died at the age of 44, and many celebrity chefs posted beautiful tributes in his honor. However, while appearing on the Big J show, she was asked about his death, and her response was, "I'm not familiar with him, but I'm sorry to hear that. You know, they say the restaurant business will kill you. No pun intended." She laughed it off, but no one was laughing with her, and just when you thought she might get off the blacklist, she done did it again. Dug herself a deeper hole. Taking the number 3 spot on our list is J.D. Salinger. Everyone who went through high school had to read the book The Catcher in the Rye, which was written by a famous author, J.D. Salinger. He sadly passed away in 2010 at the age of 91, but before that, his career took a turn and he went into hiding after being blacklisted, but we never even knew. In 2013, 2 authors named Shane Salerno and David Shields published a book called Salinger, which revealed the author's crazy life and uncovered some very heartbreaking stories. Turns out he actually never spoke about his time in the World War II, and he ended up checking himself into a mental institution after leaving to help him deal with what he had witnessed in the war. Once he left the institution, he actually went back into the army and participated in the denazification of Germany. But because of this, there were times that some of his books were turned down. Publishers turned him down because they thought that he was crazy. Shane Salerno said during an interview, "Being told that he was crazy was a great wound to him. In fact, he teared up in the room and was deeply, deeply hurt." They said that the effects of the war and being turned down as a writer sent him into this life of isolation. He disappeared from everyone and went on to live a very private life. Honestly, after hearing this story, I feel like I really underappreciated the whole Catcher in the Rye book. Like, I hated reading that. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I probably did those things where you googled the notes and it like sums it up for you. Taking second place on our list is Lelaine, the adored Disney star from the hit TV series Lizzie McGuire. Fans started questioning where she went when she didn't show up in the final episodes of the series, and when they didn't see her return for the Lizzie McGuire movie either. In the movie, they said her character was on a family vacation in Mexico, but the real reason she went missing is because she was actually arrested and pled guilty to the possession of crystal meth. Somehow she managed to keep it all hidden during the time that it was going on. It actually wasn't until she had a warrant out for her arrest that it made headlines. She was charged with a felony after not showing up for her court appearance. After her legal issues were all sorted out, she went on to work a regular job in LA where she said it just paid the bills. It was recently announced that Lizzie McGuire was coming back with a reboot, so fans are wondering if maybe she will be making a return. Is she going to be invited? Will she say yes? We're gonna have to wait and see. Taking our number 1 spot is Richard Simmons. The hilarious exercise guru taught his last exercise class in 2014, and we haven't seen him ever since. Like, literally, he walked out of the Beverly Hills studio and wasn't seen publicly for over 3 years. A podcast was created called Missing Richard Simmons, which claimed that he was being held hostage in his Hollywood Hills home by his housekeeper, or that he was possibly transitioning into a woman. Rumors started spreading, but his brother Lenny Simmons came forward with a statement saying, I quote, "He's not sick. These things about him transitioning into a woman are ridiculous. After 40 some odd years, he just decided that he wants to rest, he wants time to himself." The only reason he ever found himself blacklisted was because of his choice to leave and how he went about it, without any explanation at all. Fitness friend Billy Blank said in June 2019 that he thinks Richard will be making a comeback, but Richard's representative declined to comment on it. I mean, he's 70 years old now. Let the man rest. Starting off our list at number 10 is Jennifer Lawrence. If you are a fan of the actress, then you might be wondering where she has been lately. She hasn't appeared as a lead in a film since 2018, and there was a time when she was appearing in most of them. Turns out she didn't disappear on purpose or have some epic plan to leave Hollywood, but her presence has not been made known and she hasn't been around much in the last few years. Even before the coronavirus pandemic started, Jennifer had been quarantining in her own little world, it seemed. Turns out out, she took some time off from acting and got married, which was completely private. She started dating her now husband, Cook Maroney, in 2018, and their wedding was on October 19th, 2019. The whole thing was kept as private as possible, and some would say her priorities were changed due to this new chapter in her life. But some good news, she is set to return to some movies next year. She signed on to a movie called Don't Look Up, which is now delayed until 2021, so it might just be her big comeback. Here's hope, and I really like her. Up next, number 9 is Macaulay Culkin, probably one of the biggest examples of a celebrity disappearing from the Hollywood limelight. During the 90s, he was a child star that rose above the rest, and it seemed like his future in the industry was very bright. But he suddenly disappeared, and people were wondering what happened to the most famous kid on earth. In 1994, he had 3 big movies that year, and all of them bombed at the box office, which would definitely have an impact on a 14-year-old actor trying to make it big. He officially took his exit from the industry in 1995 during a difficult time in his personal life. His parents decided to separate, and they were facing a very vicious custody battle over Macaulay and his siblings. In the end, reports say his mother got full custody, and he was estranged from his father ever since. We didn't see him in movies for many years, and anytime the paparazzi found him, the articles reported that he was struggling with a drug addiction. It wasn't until recent years that he has resurfaced and is taking on smaller projects, but on his own terms. Swiping the number 8 spot is Meg Ryan. For a long time, she was known as America's sweetheart after taking over the 90s with her beauty and talent. After her first movie role in 1981, she kept getting job offers to a point where she had to drop out of college to focus on her film career. She was starring in some of the biggest rom-coms to this date, but then just disappeared in the early 2000s. Some people thought it may have to do with the scandal in which she was caught cheating on Dennis Quaid with Russell Crowe. Almost a decade after the scandal, she revealed that she was treated like the Scarlet Woman after that scandal happened, and revealed that Dennis had been dating other women too during their relationship. She also admitted that leaving Hollywood was actually a dream. During an interview, she said, "I have gotten what I guess I secretly wanted to do, be totally under the radar and live my life." Meg had no roles from 2009 to 2015, but in recent times you may see her in paparazzi photos around New York or some events because she will always be Meg Ryan. During her time away, she completely reconstructed her face though, so she may not be as recognizable as when you saw her last. Up next, number 7 is Jonathan Taylor Thomas, another heartthrob from the 90s who just disappeared from the industry randomly. He's mostly known for his role on the hit TV show Home Improvement, but he was winning over hearts ever since he performed the voice of young Simba in The Lion King. But when he reached his late teens, he quit Home Improvement, did a couple indie films, and then just vanished completely. A very bold move for someone who was just at the height of their career and probably had a long, successful one ahead of them. He is now 39 years old and hasn't walked a red carpet in over 15 years. So where did he go and what has he been up to? Turns out that he loved acting but hated the fame and attention being directed at his personal life. So he left and decided to focus on his studies instead. At 19 years old, he enrolled at Harvard University, where he spent 2 years studying philosophy and history. A few years ago though, he did make an appearance in Last Man Standing, where he was reunited with Tim Allen, who actually played his dad in Home Improvement. But he did it just for fun and says that he enjoys his life outside of Hollywood. Rolling into number 6 is Rachel Platten. The singer skyrocketed into fame with her hit single Fight Song. She grew a huge fan base rather quickly, and one fan even made it on The Ellen Show after she did an emotional cover to the song Fight Song. Her music career was gaining a ton of success, and she's even gone on some pretty epic tours. But in recent times, she's gone quiet and has not been putting out new music. She opened up about her reasoning in 2019, saying that after having a baby, she struggled with postpartum anxiety. She opened up about it in a lengthy Instagram post where she said that even when she was on tour, she was crying in bathrooms some days because the anxiety was so difficult. So once the tour was done, she poured her heart and soul into being a new mom and less on the Hollywood life as a singer. But she did recently pop up on TikTok and said that she's creating new music and is hoping to be back into it soon. Halfway through the list, at number 5 is Cameron Diaz. Back in 2014, she was one of the most sought out female celebrities in the game. She was appearing in tons of magazines and taking the lead in comedy rom-coms. But then she suddenly disappeared from the limelight and was no longer showing up on our screens. It wasn't until 2018 when she admitted to Entertainment Weekly that she had officially retired from acting. Fans were shocked at first, but later found out that she went on to have a more quiet family life. She got married to Benji Madden and they had a little girl, so her attention and priorities completely switched, as it would for a lot of new mothers. Reports say that having a baby was one of the main reasons why she left Hollywood. Reports claim that they were trying to get pregnant for a while and nothing was working. But fans did get a nice surprise recently when she did a Skype interview with Jimmy Fallon where she talked about being a mom and what she is up to these days. Taking over the number 4 spot is Jack Gleeson. The young actor played King Joffrey in the hit TV series Game of Thrones, but then announced he would be retiring after its 4th season. Despite being just a teenager when he started the show, he has hinted at retirement on more than one occasion. But in 2019, it became official. He spoke with Entertainment Weekly and said that he's been acting since he was 8 years old and doesn't enjoy it anymore like he used to. He said, "Up until now, acting was always something I did for recreation with my friends or in the summer for some fun. I enjoyed it. When you make a living from something, it changes your relationship with it. It's not like I hate it, it's just not what I want to do." After he left, he moved back home to his family and joined a Dublin-based theatre company called Collapsing Horse. So he's still acting in some way. Making her way into number 3 is Mara Wilson. If you watched the movie Matilda when you were a kid, then you quickly fell in love with the title character and hoped that she would be your friend and teach you all of her cool magic tricks. The movie is a cult classic and the actress behind the iconic character, Mara Wilson, had a very successful career lined up for her. But just a few years after the movie was released, Mara decided to quit the biz. Many people couldn't understand her decision and reasoning, so down the road she wrote a book called Where Am I Now? The Stories of Girlhood and Accidental Fame. After leaving Hollywood and growing her personal life, she found a passion for writing and started writing her own novels. She now lives a very normal life, but said that sometimes she will act in smaller projects with her friends. In spot number 2 is Freddie Prinze Jr. The actor was popping up in movies all over the place between 1998 to 2003, but then just disappeared without much reasoning for it. He did try to make big comebacks, but his last big screen appearance was in 2008. He was a huge heartthrob in the 90s and won multiple Teen Choice Awards for his roles. But it seemed like his career had lost some momentum, and he ended up trading in his movie career for a family. He married actress Sarah Michelle Gellar, who also retired from Hollywood, and now they have 2 children together and have changed their career paths. When asked if he would return to acting, he said, "I love being a full-time father. To remove myself from that equation would not be a good thing. I'm basically retired." After acting, he turned his focus on cooking and now has his own cookbooks, which I thought was very random. We have made it to number 1 and we have Amanda Bynes. She had everything she needed as a young star to climb to the top. She seemed passionate about her work and was determined to keep her success going. Fans absolutely adored her in every role that she took on. But then everything sort of took a turn and fans no longer saw her on their screens. Articles started surfacing showing she had been struggling with substance abuse and was getting in trouble with the law, being arrested for DUIs and other minor crimes. She was in and out of treatment center for years and fans were hoping that she would find her way back. But her struggles actually go deeper than just drugs. Reports say that she struggles with mental illness and has been trying to find treatments for it. In recent years, she's been able to turn her life around, working hard to get an education. She recently received a degree in fashion after studying at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles, and her lawyer said that she's thinking about creating her own clothing and perfume line.